Hello and welcome back to PuckLuck.com betting and fantasy team previews for the Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, it feels like this is going to be the team everyone's going to jump onto in the West this year. I'm already seeing a lot of noise about it. I was on it last year. They just failed to win my Western Conference title bet, losing by 2 points to the Golden Knights. They also did not make the Stanley Cup final as I had them predicted to make, as they also lost to the Vegas Golden Knights. Didn't get there. What are you going to do? We move forward, we move on, we run in the back, are we sitting it out? What to do with the team with Connor McDavid? So obviously a team that is going to be very, very, very loaded up front. A lot of fun to watch. If they come to your area, I just could not recommend enough going and watching Connor McDavid play in action. So let's get right into it with the Edmonton Oilers point projection. We have at 99. Ironically enough, that is the number I'm wearing right now. A little Wayne Gretzky, if you will. Ceiling of 104 and a floor of 81. I like them over that number myself. I think this is a 100-point team, a lot of talent, obviously. The offseason moves, I'm not really going to, be over the moon about. I don't think they did anything that's going to, blow the doors off. Not a massive amount of cap room with the impending free agency of Leon Draisaitl. So, yeah, I think this is a better than 99-point team. I think 104 is more accurate to what they'll be. I'm not going to go on for too long on, too much here. There's, this is a team, let's get right to the odds, that is a minus 750 to make the playoffs, plus 195 to win the division, and 10-1 to win the cup. None of those bets really add up to me all that much. I can see a reason why you bet the over on that point total at 106.5. But again, it feels like it's right on the line. It feels like you're just really not getting great value on that. I think that's about the most I could go on this team is that 106.5. That's, like I said, I have them closer to 104, 105 myself. So yeah, I think I'm a full fade again on all these bets. And I think a lot of people are, like I said, going to glom onto this stuff, get a bet it right now. I would, if I could pick any of these things, bet the division, I guess. I really just looking at this division from last year again, as they didn't beat Vegas. The LA Kings were right behind them. I think they're much better than the Kings in net. I think the Kraken could take a step back. Even if the Flames are a step forward, as I mentioned, I don't think it's going to be enough. So I do like that bet, but man, again, it just feels like you're locking up quite a long time on seeing that money again. So we'll get to the player point projections, and this is where you see Connor McDavid at 154 on the sports book. He is at 135. Draisaitl on the sports book, 135.5 over under for McDavid for points. Leon is 114.5. So yeah, they're both pretty nice jam overs, and you can bet them together, as I will be. I think they do pair well together, although I understand you may be hesitant as Leon Draisaitl might not play a ton of minutes with McDavid. He will play a lot. And Draisaitl gets so much through the power play that if Draisaitl's getting there, it's likely coming off the stick of McDavid. I like McDavid's over more than Draisaitl, as I just mentioned. Draisaitl gets an exorbitant amount of those points in the power play. Evan Bouchard coming into the mix on that top unit could hurt him. Just as Evan Bouchard is actually a really good shooter compared to Tyson Barrie. So I think he might end up taking a bit more of the shots on that top power play. So I'm a little bit lower on Draisaitl than the model. The model is just saying, it's only as good as the math that can be given. And he's been this type of player for a few years now. So while I think that there's a tangible reason to think he takes a bit of a step back from this 142 projection, it's only 114.5. And if he plays all 82, he could definitely get there. So again, if you're taking McDavid and Draisaitl together, I think that makes a lot of sense. And if you're taking them under, again, it makes a lot of sense because if McDavid misses time and doesn't get to that 135.5 mark, I think that's going to be a massive detriment to Leon Draisaitl. So I almost like them both the same in a sense again. But then again, that's just kind of like how I bet things. Other names on this list, Hyman would be taking a big step back given this, but again, he took a massive step forward in 1 year. So is he going to continue to be this type of player? And it really depends on if he plays with McDavid or not. Evander Kane is the one that I think I'm the most. I think it's off. I think Evander Kane is going to see quite a bit more opportunity with McDavid at 5-on-5 and has a very, very, very high shot volume. And I will be betting on him a lot more in the fantasy space than most people probably are going to, just because of he's kind of an all categories player, et cetera, et cetera. Let's get to the lineup though. Evander Kane, Connor McDavid, and Connor Brown. A lot of people like this Connor Brown signing a lot. He has value. If he plays with McDavid and can play with him all year, sure. I mean, it's going to be a good signing for them, and he's going to look good because he's playing with Connor McDavid. So if he's the type of player that can do that, then sure. I would prefer to see Dylan Holloway. I also would love to see Warren Fogle used a bit more. I think he's a really, really gifted shot taker himself and just hasn't really had enough run on his own. So I think these lines are largely correct, though, because I do kind of like the idea myself, at least, and we'll see in training camp, of Evander Kane with McDavid and then another guy that can kind of be that Connor Brown, again, projecting that to be the guy, or Warren Fogle, as I would prefer, or Dylan Holloway. But again, that kind of gives you an opportunity to have RNH, Draisaitl, and Hyman, three really good players, albeit they were all somewhat carried by McDavid. But McDavid's out there so much, he's kind of going to help everyone that he ever touches the ice with, and it's primarily going to be anyone in that top six. So I think this makes a lot of sense. I think there's, four guys, five guys, like I said, with Evander Kane that can all get there. And really what's going to come down to in many fantasy spaces is nailing defense. Evan Bouchard and Darnell Nurse, I think a lot of sites are just going to be way lower on Evan Bouchard than we are. And even though we had the great Bouchard and Miro Heiskanen wars of 2023, in most spaces, Evan Bouchard is not going anywhere near 50 ADP. I know The Athletic did him a nice fluff piece in their rankings, and that might help boost him a bit. But I think in your season-long drafts, you really, really want to try to grab Evan Bouchard. He's going to be going most likely much later. Also, in the drafters contest, he was going without an ADP, otherwise known as undrafted in some lobbies to begin. That is egregious. This guy is a top power play. He was number 2 in fantasy points in the playoffs per game. I'm a big, big fan of Evan Bouchard. While I was a little bit hesitant on taking him around the 50 to 60 mark at ADP within the best puck contest, he is an incredible asset and someone you should really consider moving forward, especially since he got paired with Matthias Ekholm. That's really helped open up his game at a 5-on-5. And as I already mentioned, if he's on the top power play, to the moon he goes. So over and under with Leon and McDavid paired together, I'm going to be jamming it over myself in a couple of slips, because I like fun and I want to watch this team and I want them to succeed. I'd love to see Edmonton make a run and eventually, after the Sabres win about 5 or 6 cup, I'd like to see McDavid hoist the cup as well. All kidding aside, it should be a good year in Edmonton. And like I said, I mean, primarily my betting is going to be pairing things together, and I'm going to continue that here without a massive edge on any of the team specific props. Go Oilers, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.